Welcome back to another episode of Matt Plays Kerbal Space Program 2 before it releases on the 24th of February. The second video in the series. First video I made an Apollo Style Mun mission that went to the Mun, landed there, came back. This time I thought let's go back to my roots on this channel and build an SSTO. That's going to be what we do in this video. So let's get right into things. Now I wanted to build a Mark II style SSTO, and so I'm going to use the Mark II cockpit, or at least the equivalent of the Mark II cockpit. In this game it's just called the medium cockpit. Isn't that just an upgrade over the texture in Kerbal Space Program 1? I think this looks leagues better than the one we had in Kerbal Space Program 1. And of course we have transparent glass on this cockpit. Now if you try and find this cockpit yourself and can't see it in the pods window, that might be because you're on the lander capsule section. There's a probe section, a lander capsule section, and then a cockpit section, which has all your SSTO and aircraft cockpits. I couldn't find the crew cabin though, so I had to type that in on the search bar. I was panicking. I was trying to build this, nice and quickly so I could have a go at flying it and had a nice, long amount of time to fly it. Now it came to finding the Rapier engine. And it wasn't in the jet engine section, which I thought that's where it would be. Yeah, the game is sorting things by their fuel type. So air breathing and liquid fuel, methalox, which is, liquid fuel and oxidizer, and hydrogen, which is your nuclear engine. And the Rapier is in the methalox section, because I guess the Rapier is a methalox engine, right? It can use either just liquid fuel or methane and intake air, or it can use methalox, methane and oxidizer, aka liquid fuel and oxidizer, just like it could in KSP1. So it's kind of a bit of an awkward engine. It doesn't really fit nicely into the category, so I guess the developers just chose to put it in the methalox engine section. Now in terms of the actual SSTO itself, didn't want to do anything too ambitious. I thought maybe when I went into this whole play session I could make a Minmus SSTO fairly easily, but I was really thrown off when hydrogen fuel type was added, and I'm like, oh no, I don't know how to make a long-range SSTO without a nuclear engine. I mean, it could probably be done in KSP2, but I'd have to figure out the ratio of methalox to methane to hydrogen. I'm like, you know what? I haven't really got time. So I'm just going to make an LKO SSTO. But it's an LKO SSTO is still pretty cool nonetheless. And guys, this is the exciting part of the video. I'm placing wings. I've teased in my previous video that wings are the dream in Kerbal Space Program 2. And this is it. This is how you build wings now. Isn't this just great? I still don't really know how well they're going to work when I build really big craft, or just craft with more interesting wing designs like box wings, but for standard Mark II SSTOs like this, and I can imagine it translating pretty well to things like Mark III SSTOs. Really shouldn't call them that because they're not called Mark II, Mark III, etc. anymore. They're medium, large, etc. But yeah, I'm super happy with how this looks. And you may have seen me struggling to locate things in the parts window because I'm still not used to KSP2. What I did was I typed in Mark II. You can actually see in the part catalog right now. I've still got it typed in. And the game does still have these parts tagged as Mark II. So clearly the devs know. Now here's a little bug, right? That the offset tool isn't working in symmetry here. It's only affecting one wing rather than both of the wings, and we did report this to the developers, and they are looking at this as a priority. So this might not be a glitch that you guys encounter when you play the game on Friday? The 24th is a Friday, isn't it? Yes, it is a Friday, but I'm just saying for me, obviously this is a glitch, but it is known about, as are all of the glitches I encountered. I reported to the developer team. They've taken notes of it, so I have confidence that if they're not fixed on release for early access, they'll be addressed very soon. I'm actually going to speed up the footage to ×4 faster than real-time speed now because you guys have seen me build stuff in KSP2 at this point with the previous video and, for the first 4 minutes of this video. And I really wanted to show you guys flying because flying was really fun. I didn't just go straight up in the air, straight to orbit. I did do some flying around the KSC for you guys to all enjoy. But I'm just adding a few more little wing pieces to the back of the plane. I decided to add vertical stabilizer, yep, and also some canards at the front as well, which I thought I was going to add just now, and I would have timed it really well with the time lapse, but I guess not. Oh yeah, and then I am playing with colors and all that. I did think the pink and the black looked pretty nice actually, but in the end I decided to go for red and white. I think it looks pretty nice. Hope you agree. I'm going to slow down the footage again now because I want to show you guys how you save craft here. You actually save things as a workspace, and then you can save the vehicle. And when you said that means that you can basically have a big workspace with lots of different craft in the same space. This is kind of made the easiest to understand from the gameplay trailer. You can see in this clip here that there's multiple crafts. If you're building like a Joule 5 mission, right, you can have them build like a mothership thing and then build a separate Tylo lander, and you can just work on them all separately and then smush them all together at the end. Thought that was kind of a thing I probably should have raised in the previous video, but what are you going to do? I'm not perfect. Wait a second. This craft is called Main Menu Fleet. And that craft is from the Oh, I literally just noticed this whilst editing this video. This is literally just the ships that appear on the main menu. It's in the trailer. Isn't that neat? Anyway, let's launch my SSTO. I'm going to cut to the commentary that I recorded live as I played this in real life. So the mic quality is going to drop now, I'm afraid. Alright, so here we are. First space plane. You can join me. We're going to hit set and then take this turned on. And then we're gonna go. Oh, in that beautiful sight. We raise a glass. Oh, it's not going well. I meant to do this. Oh, a perfect takeoff. Let's just spot the camera over here. Right, don't worry guys, I will let you watch that takeoff again without my voice and not watching it down the lens of a GoPro camera. But I'm going to do it again without speaking at all, so you can get an appreciation for the sound design here. I think it's really cool. Now, unfortunately, I had a bit of a camera glitch. Again, another thing we reported to the developers. This is the one and only time I had this camera bug, where seemingly I guess the center of rotation for the camera was around a point behind my craft, so I couldn't really pan the camera around the vehicle, so it was a bit weird. I ended up just reverting back to the vehicle assembly building after creating lots of nauseating footage of me swirling it around way too fast, so I'm not going to make you guys sit through that. Before launching it again, though, I decided to add a couple of front canards, though, just to help with the maneuverability, and I did feel that actually those rear control surfaces, you know, the flaps, they were way too big in the original version of this plane, so I've reduced them in size now, and I'm just also tweaking the general wing shape in case it wasn't obvious by the fact that everything is going very fast. I have sped the footage up here just to keep the video flowing, you know, get things, because I showed the construction of my Mun rocket in fairly painstaking details. I thought this time you guys don't need to see everything played at real-time speed, hopefully, and I'm not disappointing everyone. I can time-lapse some of the footage for the build. But the build is now over, my friends. It is time to press launch, and here we are on the runway, beginning launch number 2. Yeah, the camera was working this time. You can hear my live reaction to discovering this. Oh, so I can actually move around. I couldn't move around the plane. I'm thinking it must have just glitched. Right, let's go. There we are. Now, unfortunately, I forgot to disable friction control for the frontmost landing gear, which meant that the plane started spinning out of control. For those that don't know, disabling the frontmost landing gear in KSP1 and KSP2 stops your plane from spinning out like that. And I actually mentioned this to Nate Simpson, saying, look, this is actually how you can fix this. Can that maybe implemented? And so they're going to now look into this and just have that friction setting automatically apply and make airplane wheels great again. Now, this flight is not very great, is it? I was going to do the bridge challenge after taking off, but I messed it up quite horribly. I mentioned this in the Mun landing video, though, and crashes just are so much better in KSP2. Like, the game doesn't freeze and drop down to, like, a frame a second for the duration of the crash. It's just a very satisfying boop, and the thing... I don't know, I just enjoyed that a lot. I'm now just going to show a quick montage of my failed attempts to do the bridge challenge. Basically, you veer to the left of the vehicle assembly building after takeoff, and there's a bridge right there that you can try and fly under. Well, that'd be kind of a cool little ascent. This is the official Lowne SSTO Ascent profile, guys. You veer to the left after taking off, fly under the bridge, and then continue on your merry way. This will bring you good luck for your flight. But there you go, got a little showcase of the launch area here. All these, I can't wait to play this game more, like drive around all these roads. I can envisage us coming up as a community, coming up with some sort of racetrack around this whole complex. Now, are we going to be able to get under the bridge this time? And hey, see that satellite dish to the left of the dome? Yeah, you can fly through that structure as well. There's a whole bridge challenge course that can be created that we're going to cover possibly in another video, eh? Make sure you're subscribed to the channel for more KSP2 content. Hopefully more skill than what you're seeing currently displayed in this video. But hey, if you are enjoying the video, hey, leave a little like down below. It really helps me out. Trying to get my channel in good standing for the day of release of the early access Kerbal Space Program 2 game. Oh, here we go. That's right, we did it. Didn't even clip through the trees either. So now we can begin our SSTO Ascent. And there's another little shot of the Kerbal Space Center. Hey, see there's 2 parking lots? Well, you can't see them now, but there were 2 parking lots. And there's some bridges connecting the 2 because they're multi-story parking lots, right? So there are some bridges connecting them, guys. So many bridge challenges. The devs know. The devs knew. And hey, look at those. Oh, there's the an example of the transparent glass and also transparent Kerbal head. Yep, that's Tim C. Kerman. And what's kind of cool is that if there's no Kerbal in the other seat next to the Kerbal on your ship, you still see a picture of the empty chair and the environment behind the chair. I just think that's kind of cool, I think. Now, for those that don't know, Tim C. Kerman is one of the main Kerbals you get in Kerbal Space Program 2, in addition to Jebediah, Bob, and Bill, and Valentina. And Tim C. Kerman is actually named after Tim Cox, one of the original artists for Kerbal Space Program 2, who sadly passed away during the first year of development. So Tim has now been immortalized in Kerbal Space Program 2 as Tim C. Kerman. So anyone who's wondering why this Kerbal appears quite a lot in my footage and other people's footage, that's who he is. Now, I did pan my camera down to see if we had an interior for the Mark II. I was about to say Mark II crew cabin, but it's called the medium crew cabin, I think now. But, you guys know, I know, it's the Mark II crew cabin, isn't it? But sadly, there is no interior for that yet. Any piece that does not have transparent glass or an interior won't be like that forever. It will eventually have one, it just hasn't been implemented yet. It's a bit like the inline cockpit for Kerbal Space Program 1, which didn't have an interior either for the longest time. Now, when I built this space plane, I didn't set up an action group that would switch the rapiers from air breathing mode to closed cycle mode, because in KSP1, once the intake air drops below a certain threshold, the engines switch mode automatically. But that didn't happen this time. I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can really switch them all one by one, because that's going to change our center of thrust and cause the plane to enter a flat spin while I'm changing the mode of each engine. But then I remembered that there is a time warp 0 in Kerbal Space Program 1. Basically, it pauses the game, but still allows you to do things like switch the rapiers from air breathing to closed cycle mode, etc., etc. And that's just what I did. I was able to switch all the modes. Let's unpause and see if this worked. And then we just unpause. Oh, perfect. It's just going really well, guys. Yeah, there you are, my epic gamer live reaction to my success. However, it was a short-lived success, as real-time Matt is about to discover. I may not have added enough oxidizer. I've definitely not added enough oxidizer. Yeah, you can see the resource panel on the right. We are now out of oxidizer. In my defense, guys, in KSP2, the methane tanks and the methalox tanks look the same. In Kerbal Space Program 1, the liquid fuel and oxidizer tank and the liquid fuel only tanks, they look different. And I'm just used to building SSTOs by just looking at the parts, and I kind of know what the ratio should be of the tanks, but I guess I just lost track of what tanks I'd placed whilst building this. I have no idea how I messed this up so badly. So I ended up just changing the whole ship completely. Yeah, I just deleted everything behind the Mark II crew cabin, or whatever it's called. I'm not going to keep on correcting myself there. I did change the color scheme as well to green and white. I thought this looked... Actually, in retrospect, I think the red and white looked a bit cooler, but I kind of wanted a visually distinct... I kind of wanted lots of different coloured SSTOs, I guess, to play around with the colour palette. I did try quite a few different coloured combinations for different parts whilst playing Kerbal Space Program 2, and I could never really find a combination I liked that wasn't either black as the base colour or white as the base colour, and then just having an accent colour. Does that make sense? I feel like the main colour so in this case it's white, has to be a neutral tone. So either black, white, or grey. And then the accent can be a nice colourful thing. But having two bright, vibrant colours like red and yellow or blue and green, it just ended up looking a bit garish. But I'm sure as I continue to play around with this game, I'll find some colour combinations that I like. And hey, I'm still using like the same colour scheme for the entire vehicle. You can change the colours for individual parts as well. So maybe there's some scope to expand my creative palette even further down the line. If it wasn't obvious, the footage is being played back at time-lapse speed now because I wanted to, you guys gotta get the gist of me building SSTOs, especially if you've watched this channel before. It's one of the things I kind of do around here. But yeah, I thought about setting up a custom action group, and I was like, you know what? I can't be bothered. And hey, it's a good showcase of the Time Warp Zero feature. So that's the real reason. It was not out of laziness, guys. It was out of wanting to showcase all of the features of this game. Here I'm just accelerating to takeoff speed, and as you can see, the ship is not veering out of control because I disabled the friction control of the frontmost landing gear. And hey, I love the... I'm talking over it, I'm trying to pause now. Hey, I love the rubber squeak of the tires. Just little things like that. Just like, oh, I love the little attention to detail there. And yeah, the graphics... I love the graphics. They're so good. And a lot of people have said that, you know, I've seen the Reddit posts of the preview images. Everyone's saying, oh, it doesn't look as good compared to, you know, max graphics modded KSP1. I'm like, yeah, but like this is not modded. This is like the baseline. And KSP2 is going to get mods. So imagine how great it's going to look, right? And again, this is an early access release. I imagine graphics, especially of different celestial bodies, like the surfaces of different celestial bodies, will improve as development continues. I mean, look at the engine plume. Isn't that just the best? It's better than Waterfall in my opinion, and it doesn't have that weird audio glitch that may or may not be related to the Waterfall mod. I don't know, but it's just nice to just not need to install a million mods and manage all your clients. The game just looks really, really great out the box. Especially good for an early access game, right? Because that means that every time there's an update and all your mods break and you're back to vanilla for a bit, your game still looks good. It doesn't look awful like you kind of had to suffer through with Kerbal Space Program 1 whenever it updated and broke visual mods. You know, I've got the resource manager open on the right so we can watch our fuel levels. As you can see, I think we've got a much better balance of methane, you know, CH4 and oxidizer. So hopefully this time we do in fact make it to orbit. All of the orbital information is on the bottom left of the screen, just underneath the nav bar. You can see our apoapsis just about reaching that 30,000 meter mark. Periapsis is still very low because it's below the surface, because we don't have a periapsis technically. We're still suborbital. We got our surface velocity there with the throttle gauge. I just like how everything is concentrated on the nav ball, because the developers know, like when you're flying a rocket in Kerbal Space Program 1, you don't really look at the rocket. You kind of have to look at the nav ball at the bottom of the screen, but then you have to look at the top of the screen to see the altitude gauge, and then the top right of the screen to see what your resource is, and then like it's just a bit annoying having to look around the whole screen, whereas now it's very much concentrated. You can move the resource manager to wherever you want, so you can see all the fuel levels. By the way, just switch in the rapiers, talk among yourselves. Game levels. If you missed my Mun mission, by the way, and are wondering why it says game paused and game unpaused so many times, that's a known bug. All of us who played this game at the early access event experienced that bug and relayed that glitch back to the developers, and they all said, that bug didn't exist a couple of days ago, so it's obviously brand new, so we should be able to fix it quite easily. So I can't say for certain that it's definitely, you know, not going to be in the first early access release that you guys get to play, but I'm confident that it shouldn't be. And if it is, it'll get patched out quick. But what was I saying? Oh yes, I like how everything is just concentrated on that nav ball. You can just see all the useful stuff there, and yeah, it looks good. I was one of you. I was a bit torn on the UI, like, oh, I don't know about this UI, it's different, but I think it's growing on me. There's a few little things about it where I'm still like, oh, this is going to maybe take a bit of getting used to, but I think once I'm fully used to it, it's going to be good. And same thing with the maneuver node timer. See the burn timer that's now in the center of the screen, just above the time warp gauge? That's great. It tells you the required delta V and all that, like the old game did, but the start burn-in indicator, that's accurate. So in KSP, and I've already said this in my Mun video, so I'll try and be quick, but in KSP1, the start burn-in indicator wasn't accurate. It basically was just a countdown to when you reached your maneuver node. And you don't really, ideally, want to start your burn as soon as you hit that maneuver node. You want to basically, to get the most accurate execution of your maneuver node, you take the time required to perform the burn, for example 5 minutes, cut it in half, so in this example that would be 2.5 minutes, and then you would start the burn, in this example 2.5 minutes before you reach the maneuver node. Split the time in half, and that's when you start your burn basically, but no more. Now the game automatically does all that calculation for you, and the start burn in indicator is actually when you should start your burn. I know, before anyone says, that was actually added in Kerbal Space Program 1 with the advanced burn time indicator, but I believe that was an advanced tweakable. You had to enable a few different checkboxes in order for that to appear. It didn't appear by default, and it's just having it all appear by default like this makes the game far more accessible in my opinion, so this is a win. On a less positive note though, I was having some real troubles getting this ship to point where I wanted it to with the SAS. Even though it says the reaction wheel inside that cockpit is active and torque is enabled, it really wasn't just pointing where I wanted it to point. I said this again in my Mun video, but I don't think the reaction wheels that are on board, cockpits, crew cabins, etc., are as powerful as they were in Kerbal Space Program 1, so I think, unless this is a glitch or a bug, I'm not sure, but my take home from this is that you kind of need to be a lot more reliant on adding more reaction wheels to get that same level of control that you might be used to in the first game. So there's a little heads up. Again, I don't know if it's a bug or not. I don't think it is, because it would be a bit of a weird bug, but I don't know. I can't say for certain. And I'm going to speed the footage up now a little bit just to get to the next interesting part of the mission, which of course is performing our orbital insertion burn, thus completing my mission of building an SSTO single stage to orbit, as hopefully you guys know by now, otherwise this video might have been a bit confusing up until this very point. And there we are in orbit, I think. Yeah, what does that say? Yeah, 80,000 meter apoapsis and a 71,000 meter periapsis. So yeah, the Kerbin system, or the Kerbal system I should say, in Kerbal Space Program 1 is, to my knowledge, pretty much the same as the system in KSP2. So things like knowing where atmospheres begin and end, or just end I suppose, they begin at the surface, right? And things like delta V maps, they should carry over reasonably well. Now don't take my word for this, maybe there are tweaks here and there that would change a delta V map from KSP1, but everything I've seen would indicate that that's not the case. Now, I wanted to get Tim out on EVA at this point, but I accidentally realized that the hatch was being blocked by my front canard, which was very unfortunate. I now realize, in this very moment, performing this commentary, I could totally have just transferred him to the rear crew cabin, right? And then used the hatch there. Why didn't I do that? Past Matt, why didn't you do that? Oh well, you live and learn. That's victory lap 1. Right, on our second victory lap we'll attempt to deorbit. Yeah, real-time Matt there didn't hear my cries of anguish. I suppose that's just how time works, right? I can't communicate with the past. We can only learn from our mistakes, guys. In case you didn't hear what I said, by the way, when I was playing this in real time, because the microphone on the headset wasn't that great. It was picking up lots of background noise. I was doing a little victory lap just then. Did one more victory lap, and then we can go ahead and attempt a deorbit and a landing at the Kerbal Space Center's runway. Turning around there very, very slowly. Yeah, the pitifully weak SAS problem wreaking havoc again, although it does seem to be a little bit more responsive than it was earlier. Only a little bit, but it's, definitely a change. So maybe it was a bug. I don't know. I give up. I'll be able to investigate this a bit more thoroughly when the game comes out. But yeah, we're performing our retrograde burn. Where's that putting our periapsis? Our periapsis is now below the atmospheric level. I've never done this before in Kerbal Space Program 2. Like, I'm guessing maybe the atmosphere isn't quite the same as in KSP1, but again, don't quote me on that. So yes, the deorbit burn. I performed my deorbit burn so that the descent trajectory line ended up hitting the coast of the peninsula just to the east of the Kerbal Space Center, which is generally, a fairly reliable way of getting to the Kerbal Space Center in KSP1, so hopefully it translates well to KSP2. Now, here you can see I've changed the Rapier engines to be back into air breathing mode so that we can perform a powered flight back to the Kerbal Space Center in the likely event that I either under or overshoot the Space Center runway. Now, I was in kind of two minds about how to edit this part of the video. I considered speeding the footage up. Well, I should say that if this was a Kerbal Space Program 1 SSTO video that I was making, I would speed up the descent footage so that, we get to the interesting part quickly. But I'm aware this is like a big preview for a lot of you guys. You might want to see what a descent re-entry, an SSTO re-entry descent profile that, spoiler alert, gets you back to the Kerbal Space Center looks like. So I'm not going to speed this up, just so you guys can see and kind of get a good sense of the land mass underneath. But wow, that SSTO is really spinning, isn't it? The reaction wheels are just not very strong. You need to add reaction wheels, I guess, is the moral of the story when making space planes that are like this. Maybe with just that cockpit, maybe the bigger cockpits have more powerful reaction wheels. Again, I'm no expert in Kerbal Space Program 2. I'd only played the game for like an hour and a half, maybe, at this point when I was filming this. So, yeah, I was not exactly, and I didn't have any coaching or anything. We were just sort of let loose on a PC for 3 hours. So, yeah, this is I managed to bash a few video ideas together. So, yeah. Here we are. Hopefully, as we get into the thicker parts of the atmosphere, control should get easier because then we can rely on the control surfaces of the... Once again, I must stress how brilliant the wings are. Yes, the control surfaces of those magnificent wings. I love them. I'm literally so excited to play KSP2 just to build SSTOs and space planes. Although, it's going to be interesting because, as I mentioned, nuclear engines don't run on methane. Like the methane is the liquid fuel. Well, liquid fuel in Kerbal Space Program 1 is now called methane in Kerbal Space Program 2. So, yes, nuclear engines run on hydrogen fuel. So you need to kind of bring a separate set of fuel tanks just to power the nuclear engines. Now, I do think I've thought, like, mentally in my head, while trying to get to sleep at 3 a.m., how I could build an SSTO that could go into planetary and all that, but still, look nice and work. Like, I don't think it's going to be possible to build SSTOs that were as good as the ones we could build in KSP1, at least not initially until we start figuring things out. And I don't know what the density of the hydrogen fuel is as well. Like, I think the hydrogen tanks are very big. You don't get as much fuel in a Mark 1 size hydrogen tank as you would in the same size Mark 1 scale methane tank, if that makes sense. So I really don't know how SSTOs are going to work. That's going to be one of the big things I really focus on when the game comes out and I get to play it again. I really want to figure out what the density of the hydrogen tanks are and what the feasibility of interplanetary SSTOs or just long-range SSTOs of any kind, how feasible those are going to be. In fact, I don't think I actually have to wait until release of Kerbal Space Program 2 because in the third in my trilogy of Kerbal Space Program 2 gameplay pre-release videos, whatever you want to call them, I build a craft with a nuclear engine and a hydrogen fuel tank, so I could just totally check the footage and then do some calculations. But who's got time for that, guys? Who has the time? Me, actually. It's in my financial interest to make a video that details this. But I've got a lot on. I've got a lot of other videos to edit. I've also got my master's course that is due in on the 22nd of February, so very close to the release. So I've got a lot going on. It's been a bit of a stressful week this week. So I'm going to... Enough of my life, though. Let's talk about the amazing footage on screen as we descend through that cloud layer. I love stock clouds. I know some people have complained that the graphics aren't very realistic, but like Kerbal Space... Look at Tim C. Kerman up there. I don't think they were really going for photorealism. They're going for a stylistic, cartoonish effect. Is my interpretation of the graphics of this game, and I think they knocked it out of the park personally. Here's a bit of a glitch, and I mentioned this to Nate Simpson, so hopefully this is addressed before the release of Kerbal Space Program 2 Early Access on the 24th of February, but if it isn't, hopefully it's fixed relatively soon, and that's that even though I switched the Rapier engines to air-breathing mode while in the vacuum of space, when I got down to, the air, they weren't working. I had to switch them back to closed cycle, and then back to air-breathing, and then it worked. So I guess... maybe you have to switch to air-breathing mode whilst you're in an atmosphere that can, power an air-breathing engine. Just my 2 cents, not quite sure. Didn't try and fly an aircraft after this to recreate the glitch, so who knows. But I want to reassure you that it's known about, they're looking into it, and hopefully it will be addressed at some point. Or, you know, the other possibility is this was a complete fluke, one-off thing, and it won't happen again. But I don't know if you saw, I tried to get all 4 Rapier engines working, but one of them, the one on the right, I just could not get it to activate at all. I tried switching it from closed cycle to air breathing again and again, and it just didn't seem to activate, even though the other 3 engines did. So not quite sure. Luckily, this thing can fly okay with just the central 2 engines, because we don't need to be reaching orbital velocity at this point, because we haven't got enough fuel, and also because we're not aiming to get to orbit. We're going back to the runway, which is going to appear very soon through the clouds. Yeah, that was super weird. But yep, like I say, I told Nate Simpson, he's got access to the log files of the game that I played here, so hopefully it can be resolved. Now, where is the Kerbal Space Center? I was trying to seek it out at this point. I was getting a bit nervous. In KSP1, you could right-click the KSC and press Activate Navigation on the map screen. That's what I'm trying to do here, actually. And then when you click Activate Navigation, the KSC shows up as a node on the nav ball, so you can kind of know where it is, even if you can't see it on screen. And it'd be really nice to have that in Kerbal Space Program 2, because I think it's even more important in this game, in fact, because at this point, with this game in stock, the KSC might be occluded by clouds, so you won't be able to see it. Having some sort of navigational aid on the nav ball would be indispensable. So I have actually sent this suggestion to the dev saying, hey, maybe we could bring back this super helpful feature that was added to Kerbal Space Program 1, because it would be really, really useful for Kerbal Space Program 2. And here we are! We did it, but it turns out I did not need navigation, because there is the runway in the distance, rapidly approaching. So yes, and I didn't mask any stealth quick saves and quick loads like this. My first ever attempt at landing an SSTO in Kerbal Space Program 2. I made it to the Kerbal Space Center. We're going to land on the runway, guys. This was a very emotional moment, let me tell you. Alright, here we go. First SSTO touchdown. Put the camera there. Oh, hang on, I can't make a space on the desk for it. There we go. Here we go. Beautiful, cut the throttle. We raise a glass. Whoop, we raise a glass. And touchdown. How about that? I'll once again now replay the screen capture without my commentary so you can hear the audio for yourselves. Okay, yeah, that definitely ended on something of an anticlimax, right? I ended up veering off the runway slightly, but I'm going to take this as a win, guys. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the first ever SSTO on YouTube for Kerbal Space Program 2. Hopefully no one else at the event thought to do an SSTO video, and I've just now lied to everyone. But I'm going to remain optimistic and be thankful that no one did. I'm also thankful for the names on screen, my patrons and channel members who support my content. And it's thanks to you guys that help make all of this possible. And yeah, thank you for watching this video. And there's going to be one more definitely confirmed Kerbal Space Program 2 preview event video. It's like a... Oh, it's got a bit of a Juno mission. It's got a bit of a rover. It's got some bridge challenges. It's going to be a fun old time. So get hyped for that. And that's basically the end of this video. So thank you for watching and goodbye.